All right, guys, Steven from KR again, as usual. Just wanted to give you guys an update on the Tundra. So as you can see, the MAF is gone. We actually haven't tapped transmission at all. We had this idea that the MAF would show load for the trans ECU, but it's unplugged and it doesn't seem to care. So we've moved on from that. We've actually upgraded to RX-8 injectors. We had a problem that we were chasing. These are old injectors that were just kind of sitting around that were given to us, and I had some here, but we were chasing a couple issues with the car randomly misfiring, and that caused us to do a lot of things, starting off with the fuel pressure regulator there. We added a second damper, but in the end it ended up just being one bad injector. So while we were already doing that, we went ahead and made the jump. Since we've got larger injectors in already, we went ahead and made the jump. We added the flex fuel sensor sitting back there. That's running into the return line. You can run a flex fuel sensor on either feed or return. We prefer to do the return here because on the return side, there's no pressure and that's less of a restriction. The downside to that though is that it takes a bit longer for ethanol to reach it. So when you're changing blends, that can be an issue, but it's not a huge issue. I think the pros far outweigh the con. So with the Fueltech, flex fuel is handled a bit differently than than a lot of other ECUs, but the same as some. Down here, you've actually got to enable it first, and once you enable it, it's good. So the way it works, it's an adder. Like a lot of other ECUs. So if you look here at this column, or E10 column, because that's what we're seeing. I think we were seeing like E10 or E12 to E13, you know, from the pump on 93. So that's our first column here. That's why it's not 0. And then over here, E70. The fueling between E70 and E80 that we've learned doesn't really change that much, so we just kept it there. So it's an adder table. I'm not a huge fan of that. I prefer 2 full tables, but this works. It does the trick. So we had to scale this correctly though. Another downside that I don't like is the resolution of the flex fuel. You're only allotted these 6 columns and that's it. And even on here on this axis, you see there's only 4 max. So you're not really given a lot here. So there's not a lot of resolution to fine tune it. What's really cool though, I think, is that there's a separate acceleration enrichment. Again, just an adder. This isn't present in most ECUs, but it's definitely here on this one, and I've used it a little bit already, and that's kind of dialed it in. Another thing too is that you can actually increase the control targets of your ethanol based on, the closed loop target based off of ethanol content. So that's really cool. So if you need to run like a richer or leaner AFR or lambda, then you can do that here. And then obviously you have the same deal here. It's just an adder for ethanol. So this works. It's not ideal in my opinion, but it does work. So in order to do this, you really got to get your fuel table dialed in correctly. Once you get that dialed in, then jumping over to this is not a big deal. With that being said, for those that are curious, our RX-8 injectors, the yellows, they're rated like 220 to 230 cc. On E63 right now, full wide open throttle, we're only at 40% duty cycle. So, you know, we're assuming that once we get full E80, we'll probably be at like 50% duty cycle. And that's definitely more than enough for the turbo stuff. We're not gonna be running big boosts because this motor's got 300,000 or something insane like that. So, but that's it. We've got it all, we're getting it all dialed in. We still haven't done trans control, and we really haven't found a need for it because it runs so damn well without it. So I don't know if it's really something that we will really dive into. I really do want to, just so I know, but you know, why fix it if it ain't broke? So just wanted to give everyone an update since we haven't updated the Tundra in so long. So that's where we're at.